To better illustrate this myth, let's consider the example of the Andromeda Galaxy. In the documentary Toaster Orbita, Week 2, Phantom Animation, we find the light that shows us, today, the Andromeda Galaxy, came from there more than 2 million years ago, at a time when not even the cavemen existed. Stars, galaxies, and all these very distant things, are time-displaced images, seen out of phase. When we think of the future, we are referring to the unknown. There's no way to measure anything that hasn't already happened. This thought forces us to conclude that the light of galaxies could only be arriving from our past. If you have watched the Images of the Universe videos, you will have concluded that they defend the thesis that the only real dimension of time would be the present. The future and the past would not be part of our physical reality, being a kind of illusion which would be supported by the harmonic behavior of light and with the participation of our brain. Our brain would interpret this dual nature of light as being a wave or a particle. Not at the same time, but in an exclusive way. Quantum mechanics tells us that what we see is the image of the particles, and not themselves, because in order to see them, they must first be illuminated. If we saw the particles always with delay, or outside the real dimension in which they would find themselves, the present would be confused with our future. That is, we don't know what happens to the particles in real time, or until they are illuminated. When we become aware of events, they seem to present themselves to us abruptly. At this moment, the future of particles is confused with what we already see in our past, because, for us, the future has not yet happened. The light used tells us that in order to see the particles with delay, we would need to go back in time. This negative movement, backwards in time, is what suggests that the light of the stars would be arriving from our past. How can we easily accept the position that it would not be the universe that would be in the past, but ourselves? Or that the past would be an illusion conceived by our memory? How could we interact with matter in the universe if we didn't have a memory? It's better to see things late than not be able to see them at all. Another way to explain the illusion that the light of the stars is coming from our past, rather than our future, would be to consider the concept of a future-like cone of events. In the case of the Andromeda Galaxy, and according to the current view of cosmology, when moving away from the source, the light from stars would overlap in the form of concentric circular waves, all with the same speed of 300,000 kilometers per second. Although time cannot be measured directly in our future, it is assumed that it would form a fictitious third dimension, similar to what happens inside our past cone. Time would give depth to the future cone of light. As if this moment, the future would not have happened yet, this cone would be fictitious, or would result from a form of abstraction. From the point of view of an observer on Earth, a ray of light, starting now from the Andromeda Galaxy, should be moving at the future point, with an appointment with Earth in 2 million years. This would happen to the darkness around it if the aforementioned galaxy suddenly turned off. Information about its sudden death would travel through space on the back of gravity waves, needing time to reach us. It can be seen that this would be expected, because the Earth would be moving in space outside the light cone of the Andromeda Galaxy. So, the time in the future is only imaginary, because the future has not yet happened. This would result in the principle of exclusion from access, since all that exists, for us, is what can be remembered. the absence of real time in our future would result in the virtual flattening of the future light cone at the Andromeda Galaxy. Its light waves could not move away from the source without the addition of the one dimension of time, as it would be responsible for the depth of space within the event's future light cone. With exclusion, what we are left with is to continually look to our own past, from where we assume the light would have to be coming. The future and the past would be like images reflected in a mirror. The present, in this case, would be the mirror itself. This reversal, in the direction of the arrow of time, would only be apparent. The principle of excluding access to the future, which ties us to our past, implies that time would have to be contained within ourselves. Ground zero of time, which according to the current view of science would be placed next to the Andromeda Galaxy, would have been moved definitively to our position on Earth. With that, we would take the center of observation in tow, without depending on the physical position we could occupy in space. Due to the entropy problem, it is known that the real movement of time is always towards our future. That is, the arrow of time would always point from the present to the future, which had not yet happened. The past, in turn, no longer exists. The only real dimension of time would be our present moment.